The market is trading sideways and it isn't doing anything flashy. So it's the perfect time to step back and look at the big picture. The crypto market is generally down and general sentiment is very much down. Basic rule of thumb on how to really tell if the general sentiment is down is go to people who don't have Bitcoin, which is a lot of people out there, and ask them what they think about Bitcoin. You'll get some different answers, but the general sentiment is likely that it's risky and the price is down. So they aren't thinking about it and they definitely aren't buying it. Well, with the prices going down like that, or just doing what it's doing and trading sideways, it's the best time to step back and see where this whole thing is going and how this changes the world, because it will. And we're going to go into that. That's exactly what I want to do today, is share how crypto changes the world in the coming years. Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel. I'm your host, Jay Rain. If you like money and crypto and you're looking for a real investor take on the crypto market, you can join the Rainmaker family as easy as liking this video and subscribing with the all notifications bell enabled. Do note I'm not a financial advisor. Dee's not a financial advisor. We're crypto investors ourselves, sharing with you how we think about the crypto market and specific cryptos that I like. I do own or plan to own most of what I talk about on this channel because I don't talk about crypto projects I don't believe in. And I believe in the stuff that I share, and I tell you the pros and cons that I see in it. Special shout out to our Patreon members. We did just finish our pre-live stream, and I did just upload that actually and put that in our Discord. So thank you for joining us for that. Now, it often says at the beginning that there is sponsored content on this. This is because of our strategic relationship with Wanchain, who has been good to us, and they give us 500 won every month to give away to the audience. And we'll be giving away 125 won later in today's show. Make it rain on that like button. Strap in for the show. Let's welcome our producer, D Money.
Yo, Jay. Happy Friday. How's it going, man?
Fantastic.
Yeah, it is. It's feeling like summer. Kids are out of school finally, which is, that's good, right? It's a life changer. But yeah, things are good, man. What's up, Chris Ashby? He's there in chat saying what's up to the Rainmakers. Excited to be with you guys today.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get this party started because I'm excited to share some thoughts on this.
Okay, let's do it.
Join me, Rainmakers. I love that sound. It's fun. So what is it that crypto does that will change the world? So let's step back a little bit and look at the bigger picture. Bitcoin introduced the combination of two things together that opened up a new way of doing things. It introduced using cryptographic encryption to securely store data on a permanent ledger. Well, why is that world changing? The first step is it meant that there could be a store of value outside of what any one person or any one corporation or even any one government could control. A store of value that couldn't be devalued by the massive printing of money, as we see in every fiat currency since the beginning of time. Now, once the government figures out that it can keep spending by printing extra money, it spells the beginning of the end of that fiat currency. Do you realize that no fiat currency in the history of time has lasted more than a couple hundred years? The US dollar is approaching on that couple hundred years mark. In fact, well into the couple hundred years mark. Now, does that mean it's going to go down in 5 or 10 years? I hope not, but who knows? The way politicians are spending and printing, it could. Most of us don't live in Venezuela or Turkey, where we have seen firsthand the absolute failure of the fiat currency. We know a little bit about the stories, but it really isn't on our mind because we didn't go through it. But if we think about it, with the behavior of the current politicians in the European Union, Canada, and the US, isn't it heading that way? Maybe not to the same degree and extent, but fair to say that they are printing away so much money that it devalues the money that we're holding in our savings and ruining our savings if we're storing that savings in the fiat currency because it's in a bank or a CD deposit somewhere. But what if we choose to opt out of that system and we hold our savings in a different form of value altogether, like Bitcoin or cryptocurrency? Now, these politicians feel like they have found a new tool, a new toy, and they think they're on the cutting edge. I remember listening to some advisors of the current US administration talking about, yeah, this new ideas and this new technology that we're playing with is amazing. We have the ability to spend on infrastructure. And when they spend, nobody's concerned so much about the infrastructure spending. I think the recent US passed infrastructure bill, only 12% of the whole bill was on actual infrastructure. So it should have been called everything but infrastructure bill, but that's not how politicians name things, right? They name it according to what they want you to hear. But that means 88% of the spending was on non-infrastructure within the infrastructure bill. Why? Because they think they have a new toy. And wow, the system hasn't broken yet. So let's just spend more money. Well, this leads to essentially they're stealing the value from those who hold their savings in that currency. What's up, guys? Halftime USAA. Love it. 3 Doritos later, too. I love that name, by the way. It really cracks me up. Nick, Decentralized Sancho. Love it. Decentralized Sancho says, hello, Rainmakers. When there's blood in the streets, we become vampires. That's awesome. So the wise in those with the ability to step back and recognize what is going on, they begin holding a different store of value because they realize their own currency is getting printed away. And historically, that value or store of value was gold or precious metals. In the future, though, I don't see why that store of value isn't Bitcoin and maybe even some other altcoins, but we'll just say Bitcoin. So likely because of cryptocurrency, the store of value for the future will change from precious metals to Bitcoin. And that could be a huge transformation in and of itself. But aren't there other massive changes that is going to happen? Massive ones that will change the future of the world. And let's look at just 2 areas, though there are many, many more areas that I think as this technology gets further discovered and played with, we'll realize so many use cases that we didn't realize were out there. And so the 2 areas that we're going to go into that, in addition to a store of value for funds that blockchain will change the world with, one isn't too distant from the store of value, but we refer to it as decentralized finance or DeFi. Now, decentralized finance itself is going to cause massive shifts in the world. Think about simply the ability we now have to send millions and even billions of value to any person, any place in the world that has internet within seconds. We can take that value with us anywhere we want to go in the world, and as long as we have access to the internet, we can then exchange it for currency there. If they don't accept transactions in that, we can then just get the local currency. Now, we see some other changes. We have some articles. Let me share this article from Binance.us. So in the US, there's my cursor. Launching blockchain staking products and plan to outperform crypto rivals Coinbase and Gemini. In the traditional system, if you put your money into a CD deposit, how much are you getting in that CD deposit? Right? You might have to lock it in for 10 years. And let's say the current Fed funds rate is like 2.5%. Maybe if you're lucky, you get like 3%. Well, shoot, with Binance.us or even like some of the other products out there, Gemini, Coinbase, Celsius, you can get staking on your stable coins up to like 8 or 10%. Oh, you can get some on other things. It looks like here, you get 18% on some things. Some things I think go even higher. So Atom will yield 12.2%. Live Peer token, which I have no idea what Live Peer token is, you can get up to 18% yield. So really interesting to see Binance really pushing into this. And this is exciting because isn't decentralized finance going to change the world of finance tremendously? And aren't we seeing the beginning of that? I know a lot of people are used to CDs, but when they can get so little on their CDs and it's locked up for up to like 10 years, or they have to buy bonds that, they have to hold for a certain period of time, why wouldn't they put it into something like this? Now, if there is a staking withdrawal period, it is relatively short compared to what a CD is, which might be 5 years or 10 years. So I think DeFi also is a way to hold stores of value in many things. Think about these things we call cryptocurrencies or altcoins. They're basically tokens of different projects. They're transferable, stakeable, sellable, often in a matter of minutes, and even exchangeable to other people for value. Now, in the traditional system, why can't we do that with stocks? Like, stocks are held on some brokerage account, right? Where we might have to log in, but at present, they aren't sendable to other brokerages easily. You could say to your friend, hey, I'll give you 0.2 Ether if you pay for some pizzas and have them sent over to my home. I don't want to take the time to order them, but let me just send you 0.2 Ether or whatever, right? And send me over 5 pizzas. Right. Yeah, and you could send over, but could you say, hey, buy me a couple pizzas and I'll send you over 10 Tesla stock shares? No, you can't just send them over to his account. But why? Why can't you just send him 10 Tesla stock shares? Certainly you should be able to, right? But you can't, because stocks aren't yet tokenized into this new decentralized finance that makes the value of assets much, much more mobile and transferable. And that's just one area of DeFi and where DeFi is going. If you step back and look at that alone is going to have some massive changes. And just realize that's just one aspect of crypto. Another area that is changing the world, and some of these legacy systems are starting to get it, is blockchain gaming. Now, during my early years of wrapping my mind around crypto in 2017, 2018, it made sense to me that this idea of what blockchain could do would change the gaming world as well as many other things. But it takes a while for that to really happen, but it will happen. And we're seeing the foundations for that now. And as it does happen, those who take smart positions will reap immense rewards. As you're probably feeling, down markets can get very boring. And in the crypto winter that started in 2018, I started doing some research of video games that had items that had value. And there were some, like value, like sellable value. There was this game called Entropia, and I never played it. And it looked like the graphics were somewhat basic, but it had some of the highest sales for in-game items from one player to another of any game in history. And another one was Second Life. Some of the transactions in Entropia being for over $1 million, which at the time was unthinkable for a video game item. Now, I had a theory back then that blockchain gaming would bring a transition in gaming to where there is value in item ownership like we had never seen before, even compared to that $1 million transaction that happened in Entropia. So I found 2 early games, Axie Infinity and Gods Unchained. I bought some land in Axie Infinity. I tried to explain to my wife why I was buying, I remember this conversation, why I was buying land in a video game to the tune of, I spent about $4,000. And I don't know if you're married and have a spouse, how that conversation will go. It was definitely an interesting conversation between us. And I don't think she got it, but thankfully she has a lot of trust in me. If you follow this channel, you do know this story because I've shared with it a number of times. I sold that land for close to $400,000. It took about 2.5 years before really that hit. And it could have been $5 million had I waited a few additional months to sell. Now let's step back and analyze why in the world were in-game assets going for crazy numbers like this? Well, something special is happening here. And you can tell by those kind of numbers. So let's take a look at what it is. Video games are one of the top recreational activities and they have been for 30 years. However, something new is coming with video games, and that is the type of ownership that was never there before. See, the reason why Entropia and Second Life had some high transactions happening in them is because they determined in their game that you had the value, and they also gave you the ability to sell that to someone else, right? Far before blockchain, that wasn't even a new concept. It's just most video games didn't embrace that. Not only did they not embrace that, they punished that. So in World of Warcraft, if you had items and you were found to be selling them to someone else, you got your account shut down for violating the terms of service. Well, when you can't transfer something to someone else for the value that there is in it, do you really even own it? No, you don't own it. The game maker owns it. You're just leasing it. All those really cool skins you have on Fortnite, you don't own those because you can't transfer them to somebody for value. So I have a brilliant uncle that was involved in the personal computer revolution that changed the world about 35 years ago. About 6 years ago, we had a conversation that stuck with me. He said, why is it a video game doesn't focus on creating a world in which it allows different people the ability to manufacture vehicles within that world and clothing and skins for characters, maybe even paint jobs on the vehicles? Perhaps they license out those abilities to vetted producers, but that gamers could band together and form companies that could make and produce the items in the game and then market and sell those items within the game. And whoever nails that will be the richest video game makers in the world. Well, what he was talking about is exactly what we now think of as a metaverse, right? We're still in the very early stages as these ideas of ownership, of allowing other companies or individuals to create things for a metaverse that's owned by a different company entirely. We're looking at that. In fact, the concept of DAOs are coming about. Maybe that metaverse is owned by people who own the token to that metaverse, and they vote on the direction of the future. So we're very much in the experimental phase where thousands of different blockchain gaming ideas are being tested, many failing and some succeeding. Axie Infinity experimented with this idea of play to earn gaming, which took a long time to catch hold. Trust me. Back when I bought, there was a lot of people that didn't keep holding. Why? Because even from the lows that I bought at, it went even lower and it dropped about 67% of its value before ultimately doing exceptionally well. But even though it took so long to catch hold, when it did catch hold, it made the game makers and those that had bought ownership of items, such as the land items in the game, well, it made us a ton of money. And the use case of the land wasn't even well defined, and it's not even well defined yet for Axie Infinity. But because the game was seeing such massive adoption, the increase in value was massive. Another game, which is much earlier in its development than where Axie is now, is Illuvium. And we covered it a couple times on our channel. They recently had a land sale, which we covered, and they've spent the last 6 months giving their land a definitive use case within their game with tangible value. And if the game does well, perhaps that does really, really well. Now, right now, the entry level of land, let's check it out. In fact, I've got screen pulled up for Illuvium. This is Illuvium, and this is the land of Illuvium, and they're going to be a game production studio. So not only will the two games they're working on now, which is a mobile version of Illuvium, and then the actual game, which will be on a PC, interact with this land, but supposedly every game in the future. So this is the map. You can go to Token Trove. You can buy it from Illuvium's site as well, but Token Trove, I really like Token Trove and what they've done. They have this great little map so that you can see where the land is at in relation to other things. And I have it sorted by the stuff that's up for sale in ETH. You can actually search it by USDC as well and find that the lowest price one in USDC is $735, but the lowest price in ETH value is right about $508, and it's right here. So this is a tier 1 level land in Illuvium. Now, where will the value of this go? It has everything to do with the success of the game. But what's really interesting, I think you'll see more, is Illuvium in essence, sharing some of its revenue with its token holders, but also kind of through its land holders. Because by owning the land, you have, this isn't the best way to show it. Maybe if I go back here and I want to show you what, there we go, this looks like. So on each piece of land, you have fuel sites and element sites. Well, these fuel sites are producing fuel that will then be sellable on a marketplace, essentially sellable into a decentralized exchange that has lots of liquidity in it, so that you can instantly sell your gas for whatever the going price is, and that people will be buying the fuel to use. So this was their tier 1, their tier 2, 3, 4, and they're only selling a couple of tier 5s, because tier 5s have like an arena that will take sponsors, and these went up on an English auction. I'm not quite sure what I think 2 tier 5s that they were doing, if those have sold, and if so, what they sold for, but a ridiculously high price. These were going for about $400, $500 in the actual sale, so they're going a little bit higher than that on the resale now. These were going for about an ETH worth. And these were going for, I don't remember. I did buy one tier 3, etc. And you see with the tier 3 that not only do you get more fuel sites, so tier 2 gets 3 fuel sites, tier 3 gets 6 fuel sites, but also you'll see a production boost. This has a 100% production boost. This one has a 33% production boost. The tier 4s were going for a lot. They were going for, gosh, what was the floor on those? We can almost see what the cheapest for sale would be. Let's go to tier 4. So 12 ETH is what, a little over 12 ETH is what the floor they're doing on the resale market is. So you probably could have got them for about 12 ETH on the actual sale. If you did the little trick that I covered, it would save you about 35% of the cost. So essentially you could have got one for what, about 8.5 ETH or something. So this is the tier 4s. So they're going for 12 ETH. Now you get gas from these items. And what's interesting is, imagine that this game does really, really well. So entry level price on the land is about $600 worth of ETH. But in the coming years, say this game does really, really well, there's possible that you could be earning passive income generated by the fuel resources that you can harvest, which could be hundreds of dollars worth of income per month, or maybe even $1,000 worth of income per month. And so there's this whole new idea of video game ownership and the benefit this has. And especially as these games such as Illuvium, they think of creative ways to sell something like land, but then provide value to those who are playing the game to be able to benefit from that value as well. And that the game itself makes money, because every time these pieces of land change hands, they make a small transaction fee, as well as they possibly make a small transaction fee as the fuel is bought and sold all the time. So it's a different type of thinking altogether. And I really think Illuvium is on the cutting edge of that. Now, what I'm hoping is, because Illuvium recently had their land sale, and a lot of thinking is on Illuvium, that maybe it simmers and it dies down where it's not so front of mind, and that maybe these prices come down even further. Because even though I got some land at the land sale, I'd like to buy more. Why? Because I think blockchain gaming is the way of the future. And though I don't know which games are going to be around 5 years from now, and I'm just guessing that Illuvium is going to be one of them, I'd say it's a pretty fair guess to make. And that's why I bought a bunch of Illuvium land, would like to buy some more. As far as they have a token as well, and that token can produce you some passive income by staking, and you get staking rewards for more Illuvium token by staking it. I've been waiting on buying the token. I covered a specific video on that in the past few weeks, because possibly their token vesting might make their the price go down to where it's a lot cheaper, so that I can buy more in the future. All right, so let's think about blockchain gaming. So we have DeFi, we have blockchain gaming that's going to change the world. Can we also say that digital collectibles is a new thing in the future? And by digital collectibles, we could talk about Bored Ape Yacht Club, but we could also talk about other types of collectibles. But let's put digital collectibles in with blockchain gaming. I know they're not 100% correlated, but there are some reasons to put them in together. So what is it that makes collectibles go for so much? Like, why in the world do people pay so much for collectibles? Desirability, right? For whatever reason, we desire as human beings, we decide that they're desirable. Like, wow, I really wish I had one of those. And combine that with scarcity. The fewer they are, yet being very desirable, that drives up the price. So there was a Mickey Mantle rookie card. Let me share this with you. That recently sold. Now, this is just a collectible. Here's the collectible, and here's the guy who bought it. It was graded a mint PSA 9. This guy bought it. Rob Go, who he currently owns Dope, which is a streetwear and lifestyle brand and that also sells CBD products. And he bought it for $5.2 million. Wow, that's incredible. 5.2 million for a collectible card, right? Ooh. Now, scarcity and desirability. Why are some comic books worth so much? Scarcity and desirability. Now, as many things are going digital, have you been following the partnership of Comey with Marvel releasing digital collectible versions of Marvel comics, including some of the most iconic ones? I don't know if you have, but I have been for sure. In fact, I've got it pulled up here. I was lucky enough to get early access to their essentially their web version, which I think 10 or 15% have been offered early access to their web version now. But essentially, this has been an app on your phone, and I'm going through some of the comics they released. They recently sold this one, and this is the first appearance of Thanos. Okay. So this whole idea of digital comic books, fair to say it hasn't really caught on yet. So I think they released 30,000 total of these. Let's look at the comic details. So 30,000 total editions. A bunch of those are going to be commons, and then they have uncommon, rare, ultra rare, secret rare. Now, often with VV's release of these Marvel comics, the common and uncommon are original artwork, as well as the secret rare. And this rare and ultra rare are actually new artwork related to this. And this looks more like the Thanos that we know from the recent Marvel movies, right? But this is the first appearance of Thanos, and you can see the comic is going for just $6.75 right now. Now the sell price on the blind box was $7. And so, or when I say dollars, you actually buy in gems, but essentially one gem is $1. So I'll often say dollars, but it's really gems in the app. So it tells you the edition, like what mint number. So I can get a mint number 16,060 for $7. Now, what's funny is this dropped a few days ago, and at first I was buying these for $4 or $5. Now, why would I do that? Why would there be any desirability in these digital comics? Because digital comics aren't a thing yet. So, have you realized that there's some problems with physical comics? Now, did you go through the experience like I did, where you collected some baseball cards or maybe some other kind of collectible, and your mom got tired of storing them, so she might have thrown some away? Why? Because physical items take up a lot of physical space, right? That's one of the big downsides to the physical items is all the physical space they can take up. But what if these digital items, as people get more used to using digital in their lives, they just want the digital item because it's not taking up a ton of space. In fact, they can carry it on their phone, their computer. They're not even having to store the data. They just have access to it. But they do have ownership because not only can they own it, they can sell it and capture the value from it, right? So this whole idea of comic books as a collectible really launched not too long ago with VV. I think had the very first one, and they released a Marvel #1, and I'm just looking for that. It's not this guy. it is different from that one. Marvel number one. When this first came out, and I bought a bunch, I think I need to refresh because I don't think it's showing all of them to me. There it is right
Yeah,
here.
top right, Jay. There you go.
Marvel Comics number one. This first came out. This was a blind box format. So if you were really lucky, you got one of these. And even though the market's flipped around, these are going for 28,000 gems, which is roughly $28,000 for a secret rare version of this. Unfortunately, I had a chance to buy one when it first released. They were going for about 1,200, and I did not. I did, however, buy about 30 of these, and I would have kept buying more. They were going for about $4 on the resale market because people who had paid $7 were bummed that they got a common version, and they were turning around and dumping the common versions that they got for under the initial sale price. And I did pick up like 30 of these, and I would have kept picking them up, but I literally just got busy with other things and forgot because I had already swept the floor of them twice. And then you just kind of like leave a little bit so that more can come on. I would have picked up like 100 of these. And at the peak in January, when comic book collectibles started to catch on and people started to really get it, these went all the way up to about 700 gems. They've since pulled back to 138, but I mean, this is Marvel Comics number one, right? So this is a flagship one. Made sense to me that it would do well, right? Just like it makes sense to me that the one with Thanos, this one right here, will do well because truthfully, I didn't know who Thanos was prior to the recent Marvel movies because I haven't read all that much in comic books. Some of these other ones, I think this is the first appearance of Dr. Octopus done back in 1963. I think even crypto will change the face of collectibles for forever too. And this is just one example of that, specifically with comic books. Now, do I know that this will happen? No, but it's a pretty good guess. It's probably going to happen. Might take a different form than what I'm expecting. Sometimes it does that, but that's with investing. We don't have a magic crystal ball to see the future. But if you have what I call golden vision, is the ability to see the way things are now, see where technology is moving, and being able to imagine what the future looks like with that. Doesn't mean you're exactly right, and you don't often have to be exactly right to make tremendous amounts of money. So can you see where blockchain is going and how this is changing the world in just these three ways? I mean, it'll change the world in other ways too, and didn't even go into that. There's data storage, the ability to harness processing power from other computers while paying a very small fee. And so people put their gaming PCs to work while they're gone during the day, letting other people use that processing power. And in return, they'll be getting tokens for something. There's a lot of different avenues it's going to. But for sure, in DeFi and blockchain gaming and digital collectibles, this is going to transform the world in just the coming 5 years. So that's why I'm so excited to be in the space. And yeah, the market's slow, but this is the bigger vision of why I'm here and why there's so much money to be made by those who have the vision to see, okay, things are slow now. Great. But I see where they're going. And when this catches on again, it's going to do so incredibly well. I want to jump to some questions. I see Bob the Builder super chat. I will get to that in just a second. There was one quite a bit earlier I want to jump to. S3U says, I've been selling World of Warcraft accounts and currency for over 15 years and know the struggle. Crypto gaming is changing the space massively. That's why I'm very bullish on it. Yes, that's been an ability. In fact, the early exchange, was it Kraken? Well, even what was the one that went down? Mount Gox, which is Magic the Gathering online. A lot of that was created to enable World of Warcraft sales for Bitcoin because it was harder to track. And so that you could sell World of Warcraft. Imagine if World of Warcraft had embraced true ownership and allowed people to transfer value, because you could do it, but you're at risk of getting the account shut down and losing all that value. And there's many cases where that happened, just like S3YU is detailing here, because they were not endorsing true ownership. In fact, they were doing everything they could do to fight it. Why? because they want that value trapped into their hands. But what my uncle was trying to explain to me 6 years ago, he's like, the company that really gets this idea of just making small transaction fees and allowing this ecosystem to flourish. He wasn't calling it a metaverse because I hadn't even heard that word back then, but essentially a metaverse where they allow all this different stuff to happen. They just make a small amount. They'll become far wealthier than Blizzard ever did from World of Warcraft, even though it was one of the most successful games so far in history. Something is going to come along and totally blow World of Warcraft away that is going to endorse that, and they'll have far more adoption. They'll have people running businesses within the game, making millions of dollars running these businesses. They'll be making a small piece of every transaction. It'll make some gaming company hundreds of billions, maybe even trillions of dollars. And it's fun to be along the lines of that. Bob, let me get to your question now. Would you deem it wise to be buying ADA this moment, or should you wait for it to go lower? Also, is Soulbank dead? Love the streams. I do think Soulbank is dead. I don't know what that 40 million transaction mint was, where they minted 40 million of their tokens. And maybe that was part of their vesting schedule or not, but it's fishy. They haven't responded. And I think for all intents and purposes, it's dead, which is unfortunate. They actually had a viable product that was usable, and all they had to do was wait till money started to come back in the market. So really, really disappointed with Soulbank in doing that. It is in the higher risk category, and I invest in some of these higher risk ones. I put $30,000 into Soulbank, so that was a painful loss for me. Yeah. So buying ADA at this moment, ADA is a pretty good price. Is it going to go cheaper? I don't know. Might. Is it going to go higher at some point in the future? I'm pretty sure it's going to go a lot higher than it is in the future. So it's a hard thing to know where the bottom is, right? Clearly, there was a bottom before the prices that we're at now. I mean, it was even much lower than it is now. So is it going to go down again before it goes up? It might. I just don't know for sure. That's the challenge of investing, right? That's why generally there's ones that I like, and ADA is one that I like, and I've held a lot of, and I still hold a lot of that. I put it, in my opinion, in the lower risk category. Now, when I say lower risk, don't take that as it's a low risk. It's a fairly high risk, because everything in crypto is a fairly high risk. It's just fairly low in the field of crypto for what it's in. So is Charles Hoskinson going to shut his doors like Soulbank just did? Not likely, not unless a lot of things went a whole lot worse for them, which you would have a better chance to see it coming. So in that aspect, it's lower risk. And so I hold portions of my portfolio in the different risk buckets. Very little in Bitcoin, though. Bitcoin's a little bit not enough risk for me for at least this point, and probably in the future I'll be holding more in Bitcoin as I'm taking profits and putting them on the sidelines. I'll probably only put some into fiat, and some I'll be putting into Bitcoin, which will just be essentially staked between a few different places that can earn me a return on the Bitcoin that I have with them. And that's the way I'm thinking about it. So great questions. Thank you. Also love the streams. It's fun to be able to interact with you directly. All right. Nick says he put 3K in it. That sucks, brother. Yeah, I know. That was a painful one. They had finally gotten back to some. I asked some VCs that know them, because I don't know the Soulbank team at all. I tried to line up an AMA, but they were private, right? Because they are in an area where keeping their names anonymous does make sense, because they're providing a privacy solution, a wallet that you can send transactions in that can't be traced. And governments aren't exactly excited about that technology. So just about any company that's in that space, the team is anonymous. Though they were doxxed, at least to one of the VCs that I knew that knew them, had done video calls showing their face and everything with them. I have asked that VC company to look into it and see about that 40 million, where they minted 40 million of their tokens, and if that was not supposed to be on their schedule to go ahead and dox them. They haven't gotten back to me as to what they thought about that. Because it's okay to close your door on the way out, but if all of a sudden they mint 40 million tokens and then dump those and then exit, well, that's not kosher in my opinion. So, if they fail, then they gave up, and that's the risk I take as an investor. But somebody doing that on the way out does not win brownie points with me. And so that's the situation why I said, hey, this is exactly why you want docs information on a team like this, because if they do something like this, then that information should get released so people know who they are. Cool. Martin Handel says, I bought ADA first in 2017 at 2 cents, but just $50. Bought some more at 6 cents though. Hey, great job, Martin. I remember my friend telling me about this coin ADA. And I was like, and he's like, it's at 25 cents. I think it'll do well. And I didn't know enough about it at the time. I started researching it. And while I was researching it, it went to like 70 something cents. And I just don't chase green candles. So it did end up topping out at like $1.40 before then coming way, way down. And I started buying in at 12 cents on the way down during the crypto winter, which you look back and you're like, wow, you bought it at 12 cents. That's amazing. Well, it doesn't feel so amazing when you buy it at 12 cents and later in the bear market drops to 1.7 cents. It only later feels amazing when Cardano goes to like 50 cents and then $1 and then higher, right? Then you're like, oh yeah, I'm so glad I bought that. But for a while, you're kicking yourself. And I imagine many of you are in that same situation. You're looking at what you bought over the past 3 months, and you're like, man, if I had just waited, I could have so much more of it because my position is down. And that's the downside of being human. That's the downside of being an investor. And that part of the cycle happens all the time, right? Especially, I'm a swing trader. I tend to buy generally at lows. I wish I could tell exactly where the low would be, but I can't. And even with some technical analysis, you're still making guesses. You're just making more educated guesses. And oftentimes it goes against you and that goes lower. So what I do is I accumulate during these slow periods and I sell when everything's exuberant and everything looks like it will never stop. All right. Halftime USAA says, holy shite, 30K, that's double my entire portfolio. If you stick around for the next 4 or 5 years, probably that would seem like a small number for you. Give us some time. That would have crushed me when I first started in crypto. I could not invest that much and be diversified. In fact, when I first started in crypto, I only put $15,000 in. So that's double my initial. And I couldn't even put in 15,000, put in 15,000 over the first 2 months because I didn't know where to buy crypto. So I got a Coinbase account like many people. And when you first start a Coinbase account, they only let you buy a little bit and then a little bit and then a little bit. Yeah. So I had to go through that. Jade, do I think Solend can 50x plus? I sure hope so, especially from the point it's at now. Yeah, I think it can. Whether it will, probably will. It can. So I like Solend. I especially like Solend where the price is now. I've been buying it when it was a lot higher and it's gone a lot lower than I ever expected it to. So I like Solend. It's backed by Coinbase. It's backed by Alameda Research. So it's got some of the best backers in the industry behind it. So like that one. Before I forget, I'm going to do the Wanchain question now. Now, many of you know that I'm a huge supporter of Wanchain. I hold Wanchain. I started investing it in the bear market. I remember when they initially launched, their token went all the way up to like $10 back in 2018. Since, at the bottom of the bear market, I think it hit like 8 cents or something. And so currently it's trading, it's been bumping around between 30 and 80 cents. But they have some of the best cross-chain bridge technology in the industry in trustless bridges. So we recently saw a big hack in Axie Infinity's ETH bridge from their chain to ETH, their Ronin bridge to ETH, and like 200 something million was stolen in their trusted bridge. And this is the reason why trustless bridges, and it has to do with incentives and setup and structure. trustless bridges are much harder to set up and more complicated. And Wanchain has some of the best technology in this space, creating bridges, and they're creating bridges to Cardano as well. And they continue to innovate there. Well, they have been a strategic partnership with us, and they give us 500 tokens to give away every month. So Fridays we do that. Now, the question I have for you today isn't related to Wanchain directly. It really just has to do with who was paying attention today. So the first person to give us, what was one of the two games that offered ownership prior to blockchain gaming that we covered just 10 or 15 minutes ago? So just one or two of the games that offered ownership prior to blockchain gaming becoming a thing.
Pop quiz, Rainmakers. Professor J's making sure you paid attention.
I did talk about Axie Infinity. That was not prior to blockchain gaming, though.
Right.
I mentioned two games. Now, I didn't end up playing either of these games, but they had some of the highest sales as I was researching during the crypto winter, trying to get a feel for where, because it made sense to me that blockchain gaming would be a thing. There we go. Ryan S. got it with Second Life. Ryan, if you'll go ahead and put in here your Telegram so that D can reach out to you on Telegram, get your MetaMask wallet. And then, because if you try to paste your MetaMask or your Wanchain wallet, so MetaMask does work with Wanchain now, and so we can send it to you to your MetaMask wallet. You might have to connect it to the Wanchain network if it's not already, or if you're like been a holder of Wan for a long time and you have a WanMask wallet, then just give us that. So, yeah, congrats. So Second Life and Entropia, right? I didn't play either of these two games, but I was researching during the mirror market. I was like, where could some of these values go? And Entropia had the highest sale, and Second Life, you had businesses running within the business. So you had people that were clothing designers, and like I was watching a video on one company that made like babies that you could buy a baby in Second Life and carry it around and feed it and stuff. So, and that they were making money running a business within a game. And really, blockchain just takes it to a newer level. Like these were some of the only games that really kind of embraced true ownership. Just a few embraced true ownership. Blockchain gaming is embracing true ownership as a core principle of it. And that's why it's going to push it. It's not that it couldn't have gone this way before. It just, most of the games focused, and they would talk about it in their board meetings, they would call it trapped value, meaning, hey, if people stop playing our games, they don't get access to all their things that they bought for forever. And so it's trapped there and they can't sell it. So it acts as an incentive for them to keep playing the game because they put so much time in and invested so much. They call that trapped value. Well, what questions does anyone here have in chat? And if you don't have any question, I'll jump into some news. Give you a minute. I'll jump into some news while, if you're thinking of any questions, you can put them in there.
Jay, we've got a couple. So,
whoa.
I was like, that's not on my end. What is going on? Will Mindblower asks, will Cornucopias 100x from here? Obviously, no magic crystal ball, but what are your thoughts on Cornucopias?
It could. So they recently did a land sale, and already that land's gone up some. Their token isn't back to like IDO prices, but it's only up like 3x. So can it 100x from here? Yes, it has everything to do with how much traction it gets in the future. And they have done a really good job, and they have a really strong community, which is a big part of it. Because then those people, when the market expands, they tell all their friends about it, which draws new users to it. So it's hard to tell, like not having seen the gameplay and what the gameplay is all about, how well it will do. I did good on Axie Infinity, and that was a guess, and it was a guess that worked out really well, but it was just a guess. And so Cornucopias, I've done a lot of coverage of because it's one that I've invested a lot in because I think it's got a good chance to make it. Can it 100x from here? Yes. Will it? I don't know. Possibly. I hope so. Hope it does better than that, but I don't know for sure. And that's part of the reason I diversify across a couple of things because say you have $10,000 to invest and you put that across 20 projects and you put $500 into each of them. And then 3 years later, um, all of them have failed but one, but that one did a 500x return. So your initial $500 you put into it turns into $250,000. And you did that in 3 years, and only one of them succeeded. That's why I like this space, because you don't have to get all winners in order to do well. You only have to have a couple do really, really well for you. And some will fail along the way, which really sucks. It's painful. Even to me, I hate it. But it is, I know it's part of the space. And just like you don't need all of yours to be winners, just some of them to win decent, and maybe even one of them to win really big. And you move much farther ahead than any other place that I can think of that you could be investing during this time period.
J. Bob, the builder, came back the second time. Which exchange do you use to cash out to your bank? Coinbase fees are really high. What are the fees for selling 100K for you?
So that's a good question. I don't even know what the fees I'm paying are. Um, so Coinbase is one of the easiest, oldest to use. Outside the US, you can use Nash.io. I haven't used them, but I have some friends that use them exclusively. Um, I've been using Coinbase because it's familiar and I know it works. So, but yeah, I think Binance, I don't think Binance.us, but I think Binance has like a fiat option and a cash out. And over time, more and more bridges will open up. So Coinbase, I think part of the reason they're not doing very well is the truth is they have had too high of fees and they need to adjust those to stay competitive, right? So in some of the news, you see that we covered this last week that Coinbase has frozen hiring and stuff, citing their losses of revenue. But then Binance is still crushing it. Binance.us is hiring and launching all these additional things. They've got plenty of cash on hand. Binance has always gone the approach of lower fees. Lower fees to the user. I guess to get listed on Binance is really expensive if you go to them and they don't come to you. But to the actual users, it's quite low. Okay. Would you buy in the Launchpad tokens in the bear market to be ready? I do have a bunch of Launchpad tokens that I bought that I think will do well when really they do well when IDOs are doing well, which means lots of money is coming into the market. And then these tokens do really well because having these tokens is like having a printing machine. If when the market gets really hot, what happens is some of the bigger launch pads, about every project they have 5 or 10 or 50 or 100 X's within the first 3 or 4 weeks. And so if you have enough tokens with that launch pad to get guaranteed allocations, it's like having fingers on the money printing machine. So during those times, the launchpad tokens go up tremendously in value. But when you're in a slow market like this, especially because a lot of these launch pads have had a lot of their pre-sale tokens vesting, meaning the pre-sale investors are getting more and more of their tokens and they're dumping them on the market. Pretty much all the launchpad projects, their token prices have gone way, way down. That'll reverse if a lot of money starts coming into the market, and say the engine starter is having really good launches. People will pay a premium to get enough tokens to have a guaranteed allocation with them. Algemantus Navikas. Hello, my guru. What happened with Spores and Omni? As far as I know, Spores is still around and working. Omni closed their doors on April Fool's Day. And what really happened with them, I don't know. I believe they raised about 12 million, and they were only in operations for about 12 months. So why did they run out of money so fast that they closed their doors only a year later? I have to speculate to guess, but that is the altcoin space, right? So possibly some internal theft, that one of the employees, one of the team members took some money, maybe just misspending it, not spending it well. I don't know, but they burnt through all their money supposedly and closed their doors. All right. Looking for any questions. Good entry point to Illuvium. Great question. Let me take a moment to look at that. So I covered this more in depth. So you'll have to check out that video if you want more in depth. But we looked. So current market cap's at 163 million. I really, really like Kieran Warwick from this project, and good leaders usually bring good outcomes. So I'm searching Illuvium ICO price. Now, I'm not so concerned about their ICO price so much as trying to get their vesting schedule. And that's really what we looked at. So we did find that their seed price was as low as $3.33. The IDO price was $50. So even the IDO, they're way up, about 5x up. The seed price, they're up 75x. Holy cow. So somehow I found their vesting schedule, and it looks like a lot of their tokens were locked up for a year from their pre-sale, and then they really start vesting. And so we're only a couple months into their pre-sale tokens really vesting, and look at all of a sudden this sharp decline from 500 down like this. And this is what I think happened when the resale token started vesting. So people are way up on them, and they're just selling them, right? As well as if you were staking back here, after a year of staking, you actually get your Illuvium token rewards. So maybe that has something to do with it. So my thought is that the price for the coming 6 to 10 months might continue to decline if the market doesn't pick up. Now, if the market picks up and a lot of money comes into the space, it won't matter that some of the pre-sale tokens are vesting, because it's only creates a little bit of sell pressure. But if it's creating a little bit of sell pressure and there's very little buy pressure, well, then that pushes the price down. But if all of a sudden a bunch of buy pressure comes in, then you'll see it shoot up, because that buy pressure will exceed the sell pressure. So we'll see. I'm watching for it. I don't hold any ILV tokens right now. I want to. I'm just an investor, and I like to buy low, and I suspect it's going to get lower. And then I'll pick a bunch up, and then I'll just stake them long term. And, I'll still be diversified. I'll buy enough that I can be excited about it, but not so much that if it ever doesn't work, it'll totally sink my portfolio. And then just stake it and hold it for the long term and continue to watch. The team does a good job at getting on YouTube and updating people what's going on and putting out Medium articles, stuff. So, great project. Like where they're going. The gameplay sounds fun. I don't know about you, but I was a little bit old when Pokemon came out, but the concept was really fascinating to me, that you could capture these creatures and they could battle for you. And Illuvium has some gameplay like that you can go out and capture these creatures that will then end up helping you in your battles. And I feel like that's a really popular concept. And so they do have beta out there that it's just like right now, it's just a survival, that you're just seeing how many rounds you can survive. But it gives you a small glimpse at the gameplay. It will be like land, and you can go travel to different areas. And in these different areas, you might happen across some really rare alluvials that you could catch, and then you could sell them. And some of these, if the game ends up being really successful, you might end up catching something that down the road might be worth $5 or $10 or $50 or $100,000 that somebody's willing to pay for that. Because if the desirability is high and the scarcity is really good, could be some real value. So it could end up being one of the games that's fun enough to play that then you can if you catch some of these and you just wait, because often you have to wait till you can, because in this game they'll release them and you can only catch so many, and then you can't ever catch those kind again. So you probably have to wait for a while that people have determined, oh, that's like the holy grail of alluvials. And shoot, I don't have one, but I just started playing the game and I'm from a multimillionaire family. And so I don't mind spending $100,000 on buying that alluvial from someone. And that's how that kind of value changes hands. Somebody coming from a lot of money that's like they want it as a status symbol, willing to pay $100,000 for something that is otherwise unobtainable, except through secondary market sales. Didn't we see that with Bored Ape Yacht Club? Kind of similar. All right, that's everything I got. Anybody here like H-Bar? H-Bar is interesting. I really want them to be successful. I didn't invest in them forever ago when they were much, much cheaper than they are now, and released a video on it. One of the things I didn't like as their token becomes really popular and sells for a lot, they actually release more treasury tokens at the height to put downward pressure on the price. And I didn't like that component of it. But I covered it somewhere back in here, and I got a lot of hate from the H-Bar community. They were very mad. So it's not quite back to those lows, but it's getting back to an attractive price. And so it went up as high as, what was that peak? 50 cents. And it's down now under 9 cents, and it will probably go cheaper before it goes expensive. It's a good project, and I've continued to see good things from them, and that ecosystem expanding. So this time around, I'll probably buy some if it gets a little bit cheaper than it is now, just because what I've seen from them on the business side, I like enough that I would do it. All right. Well, thanks, Nick, for joining us. I have to go too. I appreciate everyone joining us. If you haven't already, become a Rainmaker. It's as easy as liking this video and subscribing with that all notifications bell enabled. Make sense? Remember, no rain, no gain. We'll see you next time.
Came into the space chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, shit bad before you could. Was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always make the time in mind. I stick the one out cause I'm patient like that, and I'll wait for the right time. I'll sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't leave with my heart. Principles are simple, they're leaving a mark. Why when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, got parabolic to dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes it time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, studying to know that nothing comes easy, but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this wrong cause soon will come a bear market. Learning and growing, and when it's slow will be the target. Naysayers come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. Strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time, the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go of the hate, let the haters be crapping. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes it time fly by, years going so fast. This game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough, and that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.